All right, so as some of you may know, this is my 97 S600, and I've had this thing for a long time, and I'm making a video today about it because I need your help.
This is my 97 S600. Originally, I bought it back in 2019, and it was on camera very little over the years. Oddly enough, the biggest reason being, back in 2020, after I'd started making a little bit of money, I decided to do what I had always wanted to do with this car, make it sound like an old F1 car. We were gonna call it the 4-door Pagani Zonda. The secret to making these cars sound incredible are the equal length headers that got put on the car. And back then, I wanted to just put on that $12,000 exhaust system, that brilliant exhaust made for this car that originally broke the internet in the first place with this sound. But every time I tried to contact him, he would not get back to me. So I decided, screw it, let's do it ourselves. So back in 2020, the car was brought to Sam from Guichi Motors. And after a while, because they did take a lot more time than we were expecting, they did get made, and here was the result. That doesn't sound that great at all. Over the next few years, we tried different exhaust setups, different X-pipes, different mufflers, pipe diameters, nothing. Until one day, just for the heck of it, I raced this S600 next to a beat-to-hell S500 I bought on impulse years ago, and they were dead even up to 60. The conclusion was there was something wrong with the S600. Eventually, we found out the motor had low compression, which for a well-taken care of S600 with less than 100,000 miles was unheard of. So eventually, I got another motor in the car, and I was ready to finally hear the F1 noises. But no, it sounded exactly the same. Felt faster though. But by then, I had just gotten so tired of dealing with the car, so I parked it. Drove it around here and there to keep the battery charged, but I was done spending time and money on it. But recently, something happened. Something that all of a sudden put a light at the end of this tunnel and gave me hope that we actually can get this car finished.
But before we get to that, we have to thank today's video sponsor.
Factor, the greatest way to food of all time. You. I know you spend too much money on DoorDash and Uber Eats. That is the Matrix keeping you poor. Ascend. It's time for you to start saving money and eating better than you ever have before. Factor delivers fresh, never frozen,
dietitian approved meals
right to your doorstep. Just select the kind of meals you want. They will spawn directly at your door. Shove them forcefully into your microwave for 2 minutes, and then I know what you're thinking. You think you'll get tired of the menu. No. Their menus are updated weekly with over 34 different chef-prepared meals, all of which come in meal plans that range between 4 and 18 meals a week. Break your Chick-fil-A and McDonald's addiction. Factor will help you avoid takeout and paying $10 for a side of guacamole from Chipotle. They're full meals that are cheaper and taste better than fast food.
Head to Factor75.com or click the link below and use code Jimbo50 to get 50% off your first Factor box and 20% off your next month of orders. That's Jimbo50 at Factor75.com to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month of orders.
In all seriousness, folks, meal prep companies like Factor changed my life about 6 months ago. I work from home, and normally every day I would just order from DoorDash because it was easy. But you feel like crap when you eat that, and it also gets really expensive. But as soon as meal prep companies came in my life, that changed everything. Because it was like having restaurant quality meals available in 2 minutes. You don't need to be on some special diet or have a fitness plan or some goal you're trying to achieve. Like, just forget about that for a second. This would just save you money. Even if you just order a few for lunch or dinner, just to try out the service and see if it's for you, you like the food, it's worth it because it's cheaper than whatever you're doing right now. So check my link in the description down below, get started, save yourself some money, and eat some really good food. And thank you, Factor, for sponsoring today's video.
Okay, so here's what happened. Not too long ago, I got in this car and I just drove around the block to charge the battery a little bit. And I got in and I started it and I opened up the valves, just for the hell of it. This car's got a Valvetronic muffler on it, and I figured, you know, even though it's kind of loud and doesn't sound good, maybe I'll just hear it. And I floored it on a straightaway just to see what it would sound like. And it made the noise. It made the noise. The high-pitched scream, that V12 shriek that, you know, we all love from V12s, it made that noise. And then I whipped out my phone to try and get a video of it because I was gonna send it to Sam, you know, the one who originally built the headers. And I'm like, I don't know what I did, but it made the noise. So I was gonna send him a video, and by the time I hit record on my video, the noise stopped. The noise, I mean, it started accelerating the way it used to. So then I call Sam and I start telling him what happened with the car and everything. And oddly enough, since building this car, like doing the headers on this car, Sam has gotten crazy into like V12 Mercedes motors. He's building a ton of crazy stuff. Go check out his page. If you like Guichi Motors, go check him out on Instagram. Some of the stuff he's doing is insane with like these generation motors, the M120 V12s. But I call him and I'm like, yo, like why would the car make the noise for a little while and then go back to what it was doing before? And what he said was it might be something to do with the tune, something to do with the valve timing, maybe just that day at that particular air temperature and a lot like the gas he had in the car, whatever it was, you know, the car for some reason ran sort of the way it was supposed to make that noise. And something Sam has told me about a bunch, because you know, we talk back and forth about these cars here and there with the V12s. He told me that the tuning and like there's a lot that goes into making these cars sound like with that really high pitch shriek. It's not just the headers. That plays a part, absolutely. But to get it to sound the way it's supposed to, there's tuning involved. So with that, I went, okay, I know what I need to do.
So I talked with Frank from Tuning Tech FS. He's been tuning cars for longer than I've been alive, and he said he could absolutely tune these cars. So I brought it over to his dyno, we loaded up and we were ready to go, but something happened.
Frank plugs this car into his tuning software, and the first thing he says to me is, has somebody messed with this car before? And I go, no, like nobody's tried to tune this car. And he said, that's strange because someone's definitely been in here. And then about 20 minutes later, he comes back to me and he says, is this car, what's the chassis designation on this car? Like this is a W140, you know, Mercedes.
His tuning tools were reading this car as an R230 instead of a W140. An R230 is an early 2000s CL. And not to mention, it was reading as a V8 CL too, which made no sense at all. So something was really wrong here. Why in the world would my car be reading as a V8 CL as opposed to a V12 W140? We don't know for sure, but here's what could have happened. These cars had two ECUs from factory, a master and a slave. And back in the 90s, ECU hardware and software security didn't exist in the way that it does now. As in, you could dump data from one ECU and put it on another even if the part numbers don't match. If it's got most of the same values and it's got the right prongs, it'll work, in theory. What probably happened was years ago, a dealership was short one S600 ECU and didn't feel like ordering the right part number, so a tech took a CL's ECU from the early 2000s, one with the same prongs, and programmed it to work with my car. So long story short, Frank couldn't properly tune this because the car was reading as the wrong car. You can't tune a car that's a V12 when it thinks it's a V8. And there was really no realistic way around this other than just getting another ECU that matched. So needless to say, the car did not get tuned that night. It was off to find another V12 ECU.
So then a couple months later, I get the next ECU. I mean, I was busy. I had other things I was doing. The last thing on my mind was getting an ECU for this car. So I get the next ECU, and turns out the part numbers don't match. Someone had put, not only, they didn't just put a V8 ECU in this car as like a slave to dump information onto, they also put an updated part number for the V12 ECU as well. So the part number didn't match with the one that I got. And for this car, you need to have two ECU, if you want it to run right, that is, like correctly. If you need to have two matching part number ECUs. And at this point, I now had like a CL V8 ECU in the car. I had an updated V12 part number in the car, which was the main ECU. And then I had this third ECU, which was an OEM ECU. And it didn't match. The two V12 ECUs that I have, they don't match. So we couldn't use that either.
This car has now been to Frank's dyno twice without getting tuned. Even Frank couldn't believe it. But regardless, we had to go back to the drawing board. It was back to eBay to find the right part.
And this is where the problem began, because by the time I got back on eBay, there were none for sale. None. The part number that I needed, the exact part number that would match the one that I already have, there were none for sale. So then you start looking online at different, European pages, Russian pages. There's nothing. Nothing that would ship to the US anyway. I even called my dealership. I said, like, by chance, by some random chance, do you happen to have, or can you order one of these ECUs? Is there one somewhere in the back stock in Germany? No, nobody's got it. And the sad thing is, you know, when we put this thing on the dyno and we did like some baseline runs on the second time it was there, like the time that we thought we were gonna be able to tune it, it's clear as day. Like the car is running like, I mean, it's making some horsepower, but it's running like shit. Like, you know, the dyno curve is way off. It doesn't make any sense. The car runs and drives fine. Starts okay, idles fine, whatever, but it could run a lot better. So that's where I wanted to ask you guys for help, because I know that some people who watch me, you know, some of them watch me purely just for S600 content. I know I haven't made very much over the years, but some people really like this car, and they know that I've been trying to make it sound like proper for a long time. And I really would appreciate it if somebody was out there, maybe they know, you know somebody, that could put me in contact with someone that would be able to get me that part number, this ECU for the car. Because if we get that part number, we're in luck. You know, we can finally make this car sound proper, the way it's supposed to, because otherwise we can't tune it. One of the reasons I haven't driven this car very much over the years is just because it didn't sound the way I wanted it to. You know, I love the way it drives, it's very smooth, and it's a beautiful car, and I don't think I'm ever gonna sell this thing, because I don't think there's more than 200 of, you know, the S600s from the 90s that are, you know, even in the States. God knows how many are actually left running still, and in good condition, mind you. So I would love to drive this car more. I've always wanted to take this on a rally. You know, the S65 was always my rally car, but this never had its time in the spotlight. I always wanted it to. So it's kind of a dream of mine to take this on a rally and have it sound proper, letter it up, sticker it up all the way, do the whole thing, and it would be a lot of fun. But, you know, I want it to sound right. I want it to sound proper. I don't want it to sound like a straight pipe G35. All right, folks, so with that, if any of you can get that part number for this car, in theory, we can make this car sound the way it's supposed to. You know, Frank from Tuning Tech FS, he's ready to tune this car. I'm ready to tune this car because now it has been on his dyno twice without any luck whatsoever. I'll put my email on screen here and I'll put it in the description. But please, if you have some kind of connection, if you could put me in touch with somebody, I would really appreciate it. Because getting this car on the road, like, and sounding the way it's supposed to, I mean, that's gonna be a dream that I've had for the last 5 years finally coming true. And it'll be really cool for content. So thank you guys for watching. I'll see you in the next one.